Okay, today I'm going to try to answer the question about what the Magi saw as the star rising in the east. And I believe we can see this on astronomy programs. Right now I'm on Stellarium and I'm on the web version of it, not the downloaded version. And some issues with that is one, it's in universal time, and you have to add or subtract where you are in accordance to universal time to get the correct time. So that's off, and it will be off when we go through this. And I believe it's a little bit off here on the days, about 3 days, but I'll show you that later, why I say that. And we're going to start in Baghdad. And this is pretty close to where the Magi were from. And we can kind of see what they saw in the east rising. Now, I'm just going to start here in July, and we're just going to fast forward each day and see what's happening. Right now, we have Venus and Jupiter, and Leo is right here coming up on the horizon. So we can see each morning what happens as these stars rise. So here we have Jupiter, the king planet, with Venus, the mother planet, and the moon coming together. And Jupiter and Venus actually conjunct and come together. And then Venus goes over Regulus, and Regulus is the king star in the king constellation, Leo. And then she meets up with Mercury, the messenger planet. And as we advance, you now have Jupiter going over Regulus. You got the moon right there. And you have Jupiter over Regulus right here. Now, this is an important day. I believe this is the star that they saw rising in the east. You have the king planet, you've got the king star, and you've got the king constellation, all right here. But what's important about this day is if you go through the day and you advance through the day, here the sun comes up, and go all the way through the day. When the star sets in the sun sets in the west, you see Leo is set already, and you see that Virgo is clothed in the sun, and you just keep advancing until it gets dark, and then you can see Virgo with the moon at her feet. And I believe this is a confirmation of Revelation 12, 1 through 4. It basically says that you had Virgo crowned with 12 stars, which I believe is Leo, and clothed in the sun, moon at her feet, and the dragon waiting to devour her child. Dragon also used as serpent in the scripture. So you have both of those, the serpent and the dragon, waiting to devour the child. So I believe this is the day that the Magi saw rising in the east, and the day that Christ probably was born. Now let's back up. Now keep in mind here, I said that these could be about 3 days off, and I'll show you why I say that here in a little bit. But let's back up to where we was with Leo rising in the that star rising in the east, and just advanced through the months. Actually, we'll just do it by days, and you can just see each day what happens. Jupiter stops and goes back over Regulus again on February 10th. And it's still advancing and stops again and starts coming back. Let me see if I can pull this better into view here. And and Regulus goes right over Jupiter. Jupiter goes right over Regulus again on May 5th. Keep in mind, this could be 3 days off, May 8th. But this is what I believe they saw when they came into Jerusalem, and they said they saw the star setting in the west. Because look at what happens when this star sets. It goes like that. Now, this cannot answer stopping over a house. Okay, the Earth never stops rotating. So even if Jupiter stopped, which you can't really see it stop because it only moves a little bit each night. You saw us just advance all this, and it took quite a while to see it move. Each day it just moved just a little bit. And I don't think a star or anything in the sky outside of our atmosphere can explain something stopping over a house where the child was. I believe that can only be answered by the glory of God. Jesus would have had God's glory. He was God. And he would have, have had an angel as a guardian. We have angels as guardians, and I'm sure God allowed them to protect him. And anytime anybody comes out of the presence of God, whether it's Moses' face that's shown or whether it's the angels or anything like that, they shine with God's glory. So I believe that can only be answered with the glory of God, where the light went and stood over the house where the young child was. So that kind of answers for me a lot of things that was going on in the skies at that time. But let me back up a little bit and let me keep going and show you again a little further what's going on. So you have the moon coming in, and you have Venus coming in, and Venus once again with the moon goes over Regulus and connects with Jupiter. Now, if you remember, this is almost like a mirror version from what we saw in the east just less than a year ago. About, I don't know, looks like probably 10 months ago. So you have Venus and Jupiter together. If you remember when they were rising in the east, they came together over here. Venus went over, and then she connected with Mercury. But now here, it's a mirror image. There's Mercury on this side. Regulus, you have Venus and Jupiter right here together. So anyway, that star that they saw rising in the east, I believe, was when Jupiter was over Regulus, which is right here on the 5th, and set. And when that thing set, it probably went over a house, but the glory of God just expanded and took over from there. Possible. Now, you would have had to have been in an exact position for this to be over a house, and I think that's really a stretch to say that that really happened, because if you move right or left any amount of in feet, like let's say 25 foot or whatever, that star isn't going to be over that house anymore. It's going to be move this. If you just move right or left, it's not going to be over that house anymore. So I don't believe that this totally answers. It may have, it's obvious that that is what they saw rising in the east, and the star that they saw rising in the east was there again, and they were excited. I believe that was it, and I believe that is the time frame that they were in Jerusalem, May, June time frame. Okay, so let's keep going with this, because I want to show us something else that happened. If you keep advancing, and let's just go to 7, 8, 12. And let's look at Leo up here and watch what happens here. I'm just going to advance the days. Okay, and we go to, here comes the moon again, and we're in full moon right here. Now look at this, 1/7. You've got a blood moon. You've got the lunar eclipse going on. You see this? Let's just advance this. And then advance it forward. Blood moon. This actually is recorded by Josephus, and he says that when Herod killed the two rabbis that got the students to chop that eagle off of the temple, he had them killed. And that night there was a lunar eclipse, and Josephus says that everybody said that the moon turned red with the blood of the rabbis. So the reason I am saying that this is 3 days off is because NASA has this lunar eclipse on January 10th, and this says January 7th. So I believe that this actually has some type of little glitch or something in it. I believe this happened on January 10th, the lunar eclipse recorded by Josephus. And then it also says that Herod died shortly after that, in between this date and Passover. So he had to have Archelaus ruling in Passover at that time because there was a big problem. If you can go back in history and look, Archelaus was ruling at the time of that Passover. Well, I think Herod died probably in January or early February because he had to be taken to the Herodium to be buried. He was in Jericho, and he would have had a, pretty extravagant procession. So, this really kind of confirms things for me, the time frame and everything. And keep in mind too here that we're in the year 0. There is no year 0. Okay, this is 1 BC. There is no year 0. Just add 1 BC, and when we was in 2 BC, it was 3 BC. So just keep that in mind. You just got to add 1 when you're on this side of BC. But this kind of answers for me what the Magi saw. The lunar eclipse kind of confirms the time period, the time frame, Herod's death, and Leo, the constellation, King, planet, Regulus star in King constellation. And it really kind of confirms a lot about the timing and everything. So I hope that answers some questions for you. It has for me. And you can go to this program and see all this for yourself. Download Stellarium, and this is the web version. And it's a lot easier to use than if you download the thing to your computer and try to use that. There's a lot of other stuff you got to learn to make it work and everything. But I'm sure it's more precise than this one. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that answers a question for you. Thank you.